My name is Raghav, and I want to talk about Yesterday. Yesterday is a British musical fantasy comedy film about a young musician who, after an accident, wakes up in a world where he's the only person who remembers the Beatles and subsequently becomes the biggest musician ever by taking credit for their music. This pretty unique premise was directed by Danny Boyle, known for his multiple critically acclaimed hits like Trainspotting, 28 Days Later, Slumdog Millionaire. I mean, the dude's a hit-making machine. Yesterday was written by Richard Curtis, who's one of Britain's most successful comedy writers, having written Four Weddings and a Funeral, Notting Hill, Bridget Jones's Diary, Love Actually, About Time. I mean, take your pick. I thought that the premise was really interesting, but I did hear a lot of criticism about the premise being too specific. Like, why did only the Beatles vanish? And how specifically a musician is the one who's remembering them? And I guess they were saying that it's too convenient. And I mean, honestly, I don't really have a problem with that because that's the thought exercise the filmmakers are taking us on. It's a fictional story and that's the premise, so I don't really see why it needs to be all that logical. Plus, I saw it as a very interesting way to portray a metaphor for imposter syndrome, which almost all celebrities inevitably go through, where all the fame, success, and adoration they receive makes them feel like frauds and undeserving. And here we have a movie about a guy who gets all of those accolades and really is undeserving of them. It seemed like a good enough idea to me. But to dispel all of your doubts in case you were feeling like the premise is a bit dumb, the Beatles are not the only thing that disappear. A whole bunch of things and people just vanish from existence, and he is literally in a different world where everything is slightly different. And since he is a musician, the Beatles thing affects him the most, and he's able to use that to his advantage. But each new thing that he learns no longer exists in the world is a really funny moment that has to be experienced firsthand, so I won't mention them here. Now, going into the film, I have a bit of a bias because I'm a huge Beatles fan, and I went into this film wanting to love it. I find it very difficult to hate anything that features the Beatles music prominently. I love Robert Zemeckis' Beatlemania flick, I Wanna Hold Your Hand, and I would be hard pressed to actually find flaws in Across the Universe, even though I know that film has problems. What can I say? I just love the Beatles. Having said that though, the Beatles music, although really well done, isn't really the main focus of the film. The movie is very much a character-based comedy with Himesh Patel leading the charge as aspiring songwriter and Beatles credit hogger Jack Malik. This guy has done such a good job with his portrayal of the character. He's equal parts soulful and funny, charming and silly. He really makes you feel the emotions he's going through, and you root for him all through his journey, even though he's basically stealing the music of some of the greatest songwriters of all time. Nevertheless, he's great. Himesh's character is supported by Lily James, who you may know as the token love interest from Baby Driver. She has a much more fleshed out character, thank God, because she's doing such a good job playing the subtlety of a best friend living in the shadow of a living legend while harboring deep feelings for him. It's a great character with a good arc. Himesh and Lily have oodles of chemistry, and you're rooting for them from the first second you see them together on the screen. Their romantic conflict, which is inevitable in rom-coms, especially Richard Curtis movies, it feels kind of forced and underwhelming. It's that thing of, if they just sat down for a moment and talked plainly, it would kind of be sorted out fairly early in the film. But it's okay, because it's not the main focus of the film, it's just a byproduct of it. And it's something that adds conflict in what's otherwise a fairly straightforward and fun and frankly a smartly written story. Jack's friends are great, if somewhat underrepresented. One great thing about the film is that every character, no matter how small, gets a moment to shine. They all get a small scene establishing their personalities and relationships, something that really cements you in the world of the film and gives you a great idea of what Jack's going through. They all feel like real people, and it just makes the whole thing a lot of fun. One standout scene features Carl Theobald, who's literally only in this one scene of the movie, but it's so funny, especially considering the implications on musical history. Even Ed Sheeran's character gets developed and gets given personality, even though, he's Ed Sheeran. We all know who he is. It's very well done. It's always good to see Sanjeev Bhaskar and Meera Syal on the big screen, this time playing Jack's parents. And they're so good together and they play off each other with ease. And every scene with them is rich and full of history, and it adds a lot of weight and richness to the overall world of the film. Kate McKinnon shines as the money-hungry American manager. She's absolutely hilarious, and she has a lot of great improvised scenes that just keep you laughing throughout. The film tries to villainize her, or vilify her, I don't know. The film tries to villainize her, I think because she wants to make money, but honestly she's too charming to hate. And also she really doesn't do anything that bad. Like, she doesn't really treat any characters badly. She seems fair and determined, so I don't really see why we should root against her at all. But the film wants you to do that. While watching this film, it's very evident that Danny Boyle knows how to make a good movie. Tons of great visuals. The music was shot live, which means he sang the songs while they were filming and he didn't re-record them afterwards, which really rounds out the film and packs it with a lot of goodness. Not to mention that the editing is crisp. Editor John Harris, who's known for his amazing work on films like Snatch, Stardust, The Woman in Black, 127 Hours, has really outdone himself. The first act of the film is so tightly edited, yet it loses no development or heart, and it's just a masterclass in the craft. Although an overall great film, it suffers from not really knowing where to go from its initial idea, which is so good. There are still good scenes sprinkled throughout, keeping you well entertained, but you feel a little bit is missing in terms of a conclusion. There's just a lot of build up and the ending is a bit rushed, but even then, it's good. By the end, it's still been a lovely time and a great story with a lovely little message. Ana Darmas played a character we see in the trailer who was subsequently cut from the film. With the story so packed and tightly edited, I'm curious to see a director's cut or deleted scenes to see how she would have fit in the overall story. I mean, obviously she didn't fit in the overall story and that's why she was cut, but you know what I mean. Anyway, go watch this movie. It's sweet and soulful and just really nice. At the end of the day, it's a competent film that'll make you feel very good and thankful for having such wonderful music and stories in the world.